Solo, that's right. That's the song, folks. I knew my wife knows that song better than I do, but that's what we're rolling today. I'm Jason Stockwell with Remax Results. You're listening to the Stockwell Eldridge Show every Sunday, 10 a.m. here on AM 1280 The Patriot. Quick reminder from a show we recently had. There is the walk for the Alzheimer's Association coming up. Target Field, September 17th, Saturday, September 17th. We want to give a shout out to them and make sure that we recognize them because they are a wonderful organization. They're doing a lot and they're raising a lot of money for Alzheimer's, it's affecting a lot of people. That is coming up on September 17th, starting at the Target Field. You can go to alz.org/walk and sign up for that and get your friends and family there because there's going to be thousands of people there supporting that. And it's a fun day. It's a fun walk to memorialize and remember a lot of people that have been affected by Alzheimer's. Today I'm solo, as we talked about. I'm here with Jeff as a host, but we're here with Jeff Peterson with CPAC 1031, talking about 1031 exchanges and how to properly do them and also do them. I go to investment meetings and seminars a lot, and people throw the word 1031 around all the time, and some people probably do them for all I know. But it's one of those things where I think the amount of people that talk about them and the amount of times that 1031 is used in a conversation or, oh, yeah, I do that, I would be willing to guess that number is, less than 10% actually do put them into practice. And that's because I just think people think it's one of those buzz phrases or buzzwords that people use to make it sound like they know what they're talking about. So we want to get to the real deal of what it really is, how it can really help you, and to really do one. It's not as easy as it may sound, or when you go to these investment seminars, they make it sound very simple and, oh, yeah, that's no problem, we can do that. And in fact, I bet some of them are doing them incorrectly if they are choosing to do them. They may be doing them in a way that they aren't even allowed or shouldn't be allowed to do them. And short term, I've heard people that I talk to say, yeah, I'm building this house brand new and I'm going to 1031 the proceeds. That's not possible or legal, is it? Or it's not in the code?
So the whole idea with 1031 is that the old property that you're selling must have been held for investment or business purposes. Held for is the magic word there. How long you have to hold it is kind of a murky issue, but typically, a year or two of holding for investment or business purposes is the prerequisite. So if I build a house or flip a house,
and it takes a year. Let's pretend it takes a year to do the build.
But if my intention from the outset was always to turn it, to sell it, to hold it primarily for resale as my stock and trade, guess what? It's still a flip. It's not held for investment. So the surly IRS agent could come in there and say, look, this was never really held for investment or business. It was a inventory property. So the strike zone for 1031 is hold it for investment or business purposes. And in a previous segment, I think we talked about a good strategy is to put a tenant in the property and really rent it out so that you could substantiate to the IRS, look, I was really holding this for investment or business purposes. Look at my past 2 tax returns. I've got rental income, I got depreciation, I got business expenses that I took on the property. Obviously, I've been using this as a business.
Land. I have a question for Jeff about land, raw land.
Yes.
What do you do there? Because I heard of people, I go to seminars and I see things and talk to people that are doing things, and they tell their stories, and usually they're great stories, but they'll say, hey, I bought this chunk of land right on the corner, and Walgreens came in and just threw the whole this windfall at me for this particular piece of property or some commercial entity. Is that something you can do in a 1031?
You bet. Land is nice to exchange. Around Dinkytown, Stadium Village, there's a lot of property owners that have had parking lots and other little pieces of dirt, if you will. They've become immensely valuable. And that little piece of dirt that you've held for the last 20 years can be a big payday. But if you set it up correctly, that payday could be tax deferred, and you can roll your proceeds from the sale of that piece of dirt into another like-kind property, which is very broadly construed. We had one investor that during the recession was buying up lots on Sanibel Island in Florida. He had known that market, had lived down there, and said, you know what, these vacant lots are a pretty darn good investment. And he purchased them right, held them for, I think, 4 years, and, tripled up his investment. Now, he bought that shrewdly. He bought correctly, but he bought with the intention that he was going to hold these for long-term investment. So you don't necessarily have to have a tenant in the property.
Okay, so that's a quick question, Jeff, on that. So you're buying a piece of land with the intention of selling it. Wouldn't that not fit in that box that you were talking about?
It's a fine line between what is an investment and what is held primarily for resale. So I would say at a minimum, you have to have sort of an indeterminate intention, like no immediate plans to market and sell the property. Long term, your goal, if you were going to articulate it for 1031, is I'm holding this as an investment. I'm holding this for appreciation and value.
Appreciation, got it. That makes sense. Okay.
So many people have questions about 1031 exchanges because while the tax code is written in black and white, we live the world in, shades of gray. And everyone's situation is a little bit peculiar and a little bit different. And just when I think I've seen it all, guess what? Some weirder situation appears, and we have to muddle through it.
Yep, that's what happens in real estate. Working with sellers and buyers, one of the things I tell sellers when we meet with them is that every single transaction is different. Every single sale is different because the home is different and the seller situation is different. So you try to get a lot of people are like, well, what do you do with when you're selling a home, or what do you do with this? Well, there's a million different factors. It depends. It depends on this. It depends on that. It depends upon all kinds of things. So that's the same thing I imagine in 1031. So that's why you need someone helping you out with that. So Jeff Peterson is great at what he does. And I went to a seminar at, I believe it was Wells Fargo over in St. Paul or by 3M that you put on, or maybe they put on, or no, it was Messerly and Kramer put it on with you. Very good information. The history, I love the history of the 1031 when you got into that, how it started, what the changes are, and how they're keeping it in place, and some of the hurdles or some of the things that are on the horizon of maybe trying to get it to change. Or there's always wind, or you start to hear these things. Oh, they're going to take that away, right? Or the government's going to, or the law is going to change, right? And
Absolutely. And I want to give a big shout out to Messerly and Kramer and John Lang there. I know he's a big Patriot fan. Here's what I'll say. Congress wants to simplify the tax code, and they want to lower overall rates. They have that goal. But holy smokes, if they throw 1031 out of the tax code and eliminate this tax deferral mechanism, look out, because the last time that we had a major overhaul of the income tax code in 86, guess what happened to real estate values? They tanked, and they stayed down for a long time. Congress needs to be super surgical and precise in how they change the tax code, because if they eliminate 1031 and commercial property owners don't have a mechanism to defer their gain, guess what they're going to do?
not move.
They're not
right?
going to move. And how many commissions are real estate agents going to make on not moving?
Yeah. Well, and how many yeah, exactly. The transactions won't happen. The new build, or the new the moving up, if you will, like the triplex owner going to the tenplex that you talked about, and that would be
Stagnation.
for a while, right? I mean, probably for quite a while.
I think it would probably kill the real estate appreciation for a good 10 years, because people will just stay locked into their property. Selling commercial real estate is hard. It's an illiquid asset. You got to get it marketed. You got to find a buyer that will buy it. You got to get a commercial loan approved.
Yeah.
It's not a fast or easy process. If you take the incentive, the tax deferral, out of the equation, people are just going to throw up their arms and say, you know what I got is good enough. I'll just stick with my triplex. I won't venture to move up.
Yeah. Or if they do move up, they will have to find one that is just absolutely bottom barrel price, and which is just not going to happen. I mean, most of the time, right? I mean, they're going to be all fighting over maybe one property out of 10 when there were 10 properties to choose from. Now there's only maybe two that are low enough to actually make a justification of making the move.
There's going to be a lot less piranhas in the pool looking for deals, right?
Yeah, yep, exactly. Yep. Well, there's still a lot of piranhas out there right now. There's a lot of buyers. They're a little slower to make a decision, and they're also doing their due diligence ahead of time, and they're very, very touchy on inspection. So just make sure your home is in good condition if you're doing that, and also make sure if you're doing an investment property that you go into it with a plan. Reach out to us, and we can help you find one. If you have a plan to go into it and you say, hey, I'm buying this at a great price, I know I could probably turn around and sell it right away, but if half that money is going to go away and instead of the profit being $20,000, it's going to be $10,000, why don't I hold that, exchange it? Then I can get into that duplex or that triplex or that fourplex that I want after a couple of years. It might not be a bad idea to think about, and something that you want to plan ahead and take a slow approach to. And I know it's always sexy. It's always exciting when you see these commercials with these people with checks. They hold up a check and they say, I just made a 40 grand on this flip in 60 days. That's good. Do some of those, stockpile that money, then do some tax strategy and tax planning on the next ones, or maybe on one out of the every 5 flips you do this with, and do it at 1031 with. Like I said, I'm finally doing it. I'll tell you a little bit about what I'm planning on doing in the next segment, and of course with Jeff Peterson's help. We'll be back soon. This is the Stockwell Eldridge Show. Stay tuned.